Hello everyone, it's the storyteller here. I've prepared something slow, eerie, and sleep-friendly for you tonight. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments. Are you drifting off already, or still wide awake? The Christmas Queen. A frozen blanket of ice glazed the roads on Fern Street as the Wallace family headed home from a busy day of shopping. The houses were adorned with multicolored lights, and blow-up decorations were as far as the eye could see. Every door had a festive wreath to showcase the spirit of the season, and carolers sang songs of merry for all to hear. Yes, my friends, it was Christmas Eve once again, a time when boys and girls dream of toys and candy, and parents wish for peace on earth. Even grandparents put their worries away and enjoy watching their loved ones celebrate the traditions they have passed down through the years. There was no doubt about it. The holidays have always brought joy to the entire world. As John Wallace pulled into the driveway, he noticed his neighbor, Ben Foster, hanging his Christmas lights. He parked his blue, reindeer-decorated Subaru, looked at his wife, Martha, and said, "It's a little late to be hanging lights, isn't it?" Martha took a sip of her hot chocolate and rasped, "Oh, give him a break. Ben's getting older, and ever since his wife, Alice, passed away a few years ago, he hasn't been the same." John lifted his brow and shrugged. "Yeah, but all things considered, don't you think it's a little counterproductive?" He looked at Ben and continued, "I mean, after Christmas, all this stuff has to come down, so what's the point?" "He likes to be included," Martha said. "Alice used to decorate that house every year, so I suppose he wants to honor her memory." "Humph," John huffed. He looked in the back seat to see his 12-year-old daughter, Sarah, glued to her phone. "Hey, kiddo, we're home. You want to go over and help Ben put up his lights?" Sarah removed her earbuds and snapped, "What? Do you wanna—" "I heard what you said, Dad." Sarah's words cut deeply. "Why should I do that?" Martha put her hot beverage in the cup holder and spoke firmly. "Sarah, we don't need that attitude right now. It's Christmas, so why don't you lend some good cheer and help our neighbor? We have to put these groceries away anyway. You can watch your TikTok videos later." Sarah ruffled her face, pinched her lips together, and fired, "Fine." John widened his eyes as Sarah exploded from the car. "Be good," he said. "It's the holidays." The cool air was comforting because Sarah's insides were boiling. She unzipped her pink jacket and removed her black toboggan snow hat. She reached up, parted her brown hair behind her ears, and marched across the snow. Her unicorn boots sparkled in the moonlight, which matched her black leggings. Martha and John gathered their bounty and smiled as their little girl approached Ben. They were glad to see Sarah heed their words, because they had some presents to hide, and the distraction was a welcomed surprise. "I'm glad to see her do something besides messing with her phone," John said. "She's been so distant lately." Yeah, replied Martha. Teens will be teens. She gave Sarah a quick wave and entered the house. Hi, Mr. Foster, Sarah greeted with a quick flutter. Ben was straggling the ladder near his front porch and snapped in another staple to a strand of lights. He nearly fell off when he heard Sarah's voice. When he regained his footing, he looked down and uttered, "Oh, you startled me, little one." Sarah looked up and said, "Do you need help?" "My parents sent me over." He cleared his throat, pointed to a box on his porch, and muttered, "Well, darlin', you could hand me those other lights in that box. It sure would help these old legs of mine." "All right," moaned Sarah. She grabbed the lights and noticed a red machine about the size of a lawnmower resting by the sidewalk. She glared at the contraption for a few moments before Ben's voice brought her back to reality. "Don't mind that, sweetie," he said. "That's just the snowblower." He lowered his hand and grinned. "How about those lights?" Sarah ran over to the ladder and reached as high as she could until Ben grasped the lights. She watched as he stapled one strand at a time with his shaky hands. "This is going to take all night." The access line with the plug dangled beside Sarah like a slithering snake, and she pulled out her phone and began recording. "What are you doing?" Ben asked. Sarah sighed. "I'm recording this moment so I can upload it to my TikTok channel later." She lowered her voice and mumbled, "My friends will be so excited to see how boring my life is." "What's Tiki Talk?" Sarah wrinkled her eyebrows. "Really? Don't worry about it. It's just a social media thing." "Ha! Don't worry," said Ben. "I know all about social media. I watch the news all the time." He continued stapling the lights and began humming jingle bells. The access wire kept creeping along and got tangled around Sarah's boots. She stumbled a bit, but didn't fall. Once again, her attention turned to the snowblower. She grabbed the cord and placed the end of it in the machine's blades. "This will show him not to trip me again. This thing should strip all those lights, and then I can go home." She saw a lever on the control panel that said "on" and pulled it. With a soft hum, the blades engaged, and the loose wire was pulled into the machine. Sarah stepped back and positioned her phone to capture all the chaos. Ben whipped his head like a startled rodent and yelled, "Turn that off!" His words were cut short as the looped wire around his neck became taut and flung him off the ladder. His body hung in the air while the snowblower pulled against the stapled lights. He tried to break free, but his old hands didn't have the strength. He gasped for air, but none would fill his lungs. Within seconds, all the life in Ben's writhing body ceased, and his eyes grew cold. "Oh, shit," Sarah gasped, turning off the snowblower. "That was awesome." Later that night, Sarah awoke to flashing red and blue lights shining on her ceiling. And they were not Christmas lights. The police were on the scene, and Sarah watched through her bedroom window as the paramedics took Ben away in a black body bag. Sarah, 1,000 snakes slithered down Sarah's spine when she heard her mother's cry. She ran down the stairs as fast as her little legs would carry her, and found her mom and dad sitting at the kitchen table. "Honey," John said with a long, drawn-out tone, "you were with Ben this evening. Did you notice anything strange?" Sarah clasped her hands behind her back and mumbled, "No. Are you sure, sweetheart?" Martha asked with tear-filled eyes. "Well," Sarah started, and then paused to scrunch her lips. "I may have done something naughty." She walked closer to the table and leaned against the marbled countertop. John stood up, placed his hand on Sarah's shoulder, and asked, "What did you do?" Sarah fumbled for the right words, but couldn't find them, so she turned her back. "It's all right," John said, looking at Martha. "If you had something to do with what happened tonight, we have to tell the police." "He's right, dear," Martha said. Sarah wrinkled her forehead, clenched her jaw, grabbed a sharp blade from the knife block that was right in front of her, turned, and slashed her father's throat. A thick stream of blood painted Sarah's pink unicorn pajamas, and her mother screamed. John grabbed his severed neck, fell to the floor, and choked on his own blood. "No!" Martha screamed. "What did you do?" Martha ran to John and held him in her arms as he breathed his last breath. When she looked at Sarah through bloodshot eyes, the last thing she saw was the glimmering blade as it penetrated her skull. The blade bit strong and true, and as it pierced Martha's brain, visions of her life flashed by like lightning strikes. And then darkness took her. Sarah gripped the knife and yanked it out of her mother's head. A weary smile crept upon her face as she turned to her phone that she had placed on the countertop earlier. TikTok is gonna love this. Suddenly, Sarah heard footsteps coming from the living room. She grew silent and heard the faint sound of bells jingling in the distance. Out of curiosity, Sarah tiptoed out of the kitchen and peeked around the wall to see a white-bearded man wearing a red suit with black boots putting presents underneath the tree. "Santa?" gasped Sarah. The jolly man turned and bellowed, "Ho, ho, ho!" Sarah ran towards him with the knife held high, and his tone quickly changed. "Ho, ho, ho, oh, no." He grabbed her arm and took the knife away. "Put that away. It's Christmas." "No, you big fat bully," Sarah yelled. "Let me go." Santa looked at Sarah's blood-soaked pajamas and said, "Something tells me you've been a naughty girl this year. I knew I should have checked that list twice. I guess I'm getting a little lazy. I should have listened to Mrs. Claus. She's always right. What did you do?" little girl. I'm not telling you, Sarah snapped. He held Sarah's arm and walked into the kitchen, where he discovered the cold bodies of her parents. Oh, no. You have been a bad girl. What should I do with you? Well, this is Christmas, and I think you should come with me until I fly to the police station. You must answer for this crime. No, Sarah yelled. You can't make me do anything. Ho, 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 ho. I'm Santa Claus, and I will do what's best for you. He grabbed Sarah's arm a little tighter, placed a finger on his nose, and they disappeared up the chimney in a puff of magic smoke. They appeared in Santa's sleigh on the roof, and with a quick dash, they were off flying with his 9 reindeer: Dasher, Dancer, Prancer, Vixen, Comet, Cupid, Donner, Blitzen, and Rudolph. Sarah pulled out her phone and pressed the record button. No one is going to believe this. They flew around for a few minutes before landing on the next roof, and Santa quickly delivered his gifts. When he emerged from the chimney, Sarah folded her arms and scoffed. I thought you were taking me to jail. Ho, 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 huffed Santa. I plan on doing just that after I make a few more deliveries. He laughed, and Sarah couldn't believe that his belly did indeed shake like a bowl full of jelly. It is Christmas, after all, and time is of the essence. He grabbed the reins and said, Now, hold tight. Here we go. Ho, like a twinkle from a Christmas light. They were off again, soaring through the clouds. Sarah expected to feel the freezing temperatures, but was toasty warm in the sleigh. Santa's red gift bag was neatly tucked in the back seat, and Sarah decided to have a peek. She gave Santa a double take to make sure he wasn't watching her, and untied the thick golden rope around his bag. She raised her eyebrows when a blinding light began to show itself through the opening. The warmth and power caressed her soul. It was a strange feeling. What is this? Ho, ho, ho. It's the Christmas spirit of love, Santa said with a warm smile. It's something that you have closed your heart to. He turned and watched Sarah close the sack. Her droopy eyes and frown showed the beginnings of sorrow. I think people sometimes forget that I know all and see all. It's so annoying. Ho, ho. Santa reached up and patted his white, fluffy beard and continued. What you need to understand is that while this world is filled with hate, there is also hope. Hope to overcome hardship and faith to do good. I believe you have that warmth in your heart, and all you need to do is admit your wrongdoings and let the healing begin. Everyone can change. No words came from Sarah. She sat stone-faced and seemed lost in deep thought. Santa nodded and steered his beloved reindeer to the next house. Not to worry, Sarah. Forgiveness will always be there for you when you want to accept it. As Santa landed on the snow-covered roof, he stood next to the chimney with his red sack of presents and gave Sarah another cheerful look. I won't be long. Our next stop will be the police station. And then your healing can begin. Ho, ho. Sit tight. I'll be right back. He touched his nose, transformed into a dazzling, colorful mist, and swooped down the chimney. He filled the stockings hanging by the fireplace with candy and doodads, and placed a handful of presents under the sparkling tree. A plateful of peanut butter cookies caught his eye before leaving. Oh, my favorite, he beamed. How can I say no? Ho, ho. Santa ate every last crumb and drank the full glass of milk that was left for him. Most people believed that he preferred chocolate chip cookies, but the savory taste of peanut butter was his weakness. Time was getting on, and Santa snorted his way back up the chimney. When he emerged from the smoky funnel, he fell to his knees, and his rosy face turned red. The snow-covered roof was painted blood red, and the reindeer were gathered in a circle, snooting and grunting. As the reindeer parted, Santa saw Sarah sitting on Rudolph's mutilated carcass, eating his red nose. A slight trickle of bright red ichor flowed down her chin. It does taste like a cherry. Santa rose with a clatter and yanked Sarah off of Rudolph. What have you done? His face shook like a bowl full of molded pudding. I thought you could change. I believed you had some good in your heart. Ack! His words were cut short when Sarah quickly slashed his throat with the knife she found in the front seat of the sleigh. Santa should have left it at Sarah's house when he took it from her. But mistakes are habitual. Santa's white, fluffy beard soaked up the blood like a thick towel and turned crimson. His jolly-filled eyes twinkled and rolled back into his head, where visions of Christmas pasts grew dark. His jingle bell knees quivered and gave out, and he collapsed in front of Sarah like a deflated blow-up decoration. Sarah's eyes danced in the bloodshed twilight, and she laughed with a bubbly voice. Ha, 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 ho. Merry Christmas, you fat bastard. You thought you knew what I needed? Well, screw you. She grabbed her recording phone that was positioned on the sleigh, held it up, and said, "To all my TikTok followers and the non-believers, the spirit of Christmas can be killed. That's how you do it, my friends." Sarah stopped recording and noticed the goosebumps forming on her slender arms. Jack Frost was wickedly biting into her bones as the warmth of the Christmas magic faded. Her pink, blood-covered unicorn pajamas were no match for the freezing temperatures, so she ran over to Santa's rotting corpse, removed his heavy red coat, and put it on. The coat was too big for her small frame, but in an instant, Sarah's insides stopped quivering, and a circle of warm, magic dust swirled around her. All at once, the jacket adjusted itself to fit her body perfectly, and Sarah felt a power that only dreams could bring. She heard children's voices and saw their dreams as they slept. Sarah automatically knew who was good and who was bad. There was an overwhelming sense of joy, and she swatted it down with a gust of hatred. Well, who would have thought? Sarah watched as the reindeer instantly took their place by the sleigh, and Prancer gave her a look that would kill most people. "What?" she asked, shrugging her shoulders. "I've always been the love of my own life, and it's only fitting that I become the Queen of Christmas." Sarah knew exactly what to do. Christmas must go on. There was no question about that. But what form would it take? She pulled out her phone again, hit the live stream button on TikTok, and laughed as the number of viewers crossed the billions. With the device held high to capture the perfect angle, Sarah smiled a devilish grin and rejoiced. It's time to spread some Christmas fear behind closed doors. "Have you seen this boy?" The woman behind the chained door shook her head at the creased photograph. "He's 6 here," Anna urged. "But he's closer to 8 now. Ain't seen him." "Sorry, truly I am." The woman hung her head, closing the door. Anna had almost gotten used to it. The slamming doors, the constant barrage of no's, dejected looks momentarily sharing her horror. Then straight back to daily life with the squeak of a hinge and the click of a lock. That's just what normal people do. Life goes on, for most. Times she wished she could close the door on it, say goodbye, give up. But what kind of mother would that make her? Sliding the photo into her inside jacket pocket, she pressed it to her chest, where he belonged. Men huddled on the apartment steps, threw dice, and glared at her as she left. Women shouting from sash windows at kids playing on the street shook their heads at the sight of her. Sorrow? Pity? Repulsion? She didn't know, nor care. By reputation alone, most everyone in Hartsville knew her, or of her. She'd become as much a lost soul as little Jimmy, except no one hunted for her. Not anymore. Released without substantial evidence is how the lawyers explained it. Not innocent, not guilty, somewhere in between, and cast into the worst court of them all, the public. Half the town and all her family blamed her for Jimmy's disappearance, and half again thought she murdered him. Some things just don't rub out after printing. Drawing deep from a cigarette, she leaned against the rust bucket she called a car, and home, its windows crowded with the few possessions her former husband allowed her to have. Gazing up and down the street. She considered how much longer she could do this. How many more shoes could she wear through? How many? Hey, you. Anna turned, searching for the smooth voice. A tall figure lurked in the alleyway opposite, features hidden by the descending sun, intentions none the plainer. Cocking an eyebrow, she pointed to her chest. Yeah, you. Come here. Waving her over, he disappeared into the poster-tattered passage. Discarding the cigarette, she made a show of tucking her 4-day fresh white tank top into her equally dirty jeans. In reality, she ran a hand under her cargo jacket, making sure the snub nose would be easy to pull. Only a fool came into the devil's basement, as the locals called it, unready, unprotected, or more worrying, unwilling to do what might be needed to be done. Steadying her breathing, she edged between the cars and made for the mystery man, standing at the other end now, one foot on the crumbling red brickwork, arms folded, eyes closed, his head tilted to the gathering clouds. What do you want? She asked, placing her hands on her hips. Not me. He didn't open his eyes. Well, who? Boss man. Should that mean something to me? Maybe. It doesn't. Now what's this about? He needs a job doing. Says you're the woman for it. Sorry. Don't do job interviews in back alleyways. She turned, throwing a dismissive wave over her shoulder. Here now, woman. Before you go, he wants you to have this. He extended a closed fist, finally opening his eyes. She stepped back, squinting in disbelief at his yellow stare, blazing like the midsummer sun. Nonetheless, curiosity sunk its teeth into her. What's that? A gift. If you like, more be waiting after a ride in that car down there. Nodding toward the perpendicular laneway, Anna leaned out, all cautious, like to spot a rumbling estate wagon. Who's in that? And where would it take me? Trust me, woman. You ain't going to care after you see this. He waggled his fist. She extended a shaking palm. His fingers unfurled. Her heart stopped, then hammered, temple thumping loud. Impossible. Stomach knotting, hairs spiked the length of her neck. How? Dizziness overcame her, faint, happy, angry. It was all too much. Tears welled as she lifted that tiny yellow watch, the one with the cracked Power Ranger face Jimmy flipped open and shut when he got nervous. Terrified of the answer, yet hoping it to be true, she turned it over. J.C. engraved on its back. Jimmy Crawford, her Jimmy. She took off before her reeling mind could catch up, and within seconds flung open the car door. She knew the kind of mother she was. Relentless, the bag over her head didn't scare her, nor the machete-wielding woman next to her. Not even the fact they'd been driving for at least an hour now. No. What scared her was herself. She just jumped without thinking. anyone could have faked that watch. It was common knowledge he wore one the day he disappeared, but not the engraving Jimmy did with a nail. Or was it? She racked her memory. The car slowed to a stop. Another stop sign. Traffic. The cops? With a mechanical click, the doors unlocked, swung open, and someone seized her elbow. "Let's go, woman." Her bated breath gathered like dew under her nose. Stones crunched underfoot. Then a hinge complained, as what sounded like a heavy metal door groaned open. "There's steps here. Wouldn't it be easier to take this thing off?" Anna asked, trying to add a little unfelt humor to her voice. A sharp jab between her shoulders was the only reply. She didn't ask any more questions, humorous or not. The descent stretched impossibly long, like the moment you see a child falling, but are too slow to react. With each step, the heat grew inferno hot. Sweat matted her hair, dampened her talk, stung her eyes. Where were they taking her? What did they want? Another door opened. The stench of sweat and sewage hitting her harder than a bat. Then music, laughter, glasses clinking. Prodded onwards, silence fell in her wake. Pushed into a chair, she grunted. Canvas bag whipped from her head. She panted the stale air. The room flickered. Tiny flames dancing behind red glass scattered across a discord of tables. Everything blurred as if staring through a heat wave. Licking her lips, she tried making sense of the shapes. Like a head swelling adrenaline rush, everything stopped swaying and came rushing into sobering focus. Hunched over a curved counter, a man fished juicy maggots from a writhing jar, then dropped them, slurping into his toothless mouth. Two skeletal, thin women, wearing nothing but dog collars, curled at the feet of an obese man, rubbing goose fat through his hair. Young men howled at a geriatric pole dancer, whilst an amputee burn victim served curdled milk. All the while, a man on a small stage played dirty blues on a gore-splattered guitar, face a snarled rictus, fingers bloody stumps, vomit climbing her throat, blood draining from her face. She gripped the round table as a drowning man may grip driftwood. Jesus Christ, not quite. She spun to the chocolate, rich-voiced stranger opposite. He wore a smoldering cigar on thin lips, a sneer in his ember eyes, yellowish smoke drifting from flared nostrils. "You this boss man?" He nodded. Courage boiled from the gun in her waistband. "Where's my boy?" Around. He waved a hand festooned with many rings across the debauchery on display. "You'll see him when the time's right, when the deal is done." He leaned from the shadows, elbows making the table creak. "Prove it. Prove he's here." Yellow eyes dropped a tattered ball of fabric into boss man waiting palm. Then he threw it at Anna. Unrolling that faded Superman t-shirt, her chin trembled. Jimmy's t-shirt. What happened to him? Did these people hurt him? She swallowed her fear and the urge to run. Jimmy was here. After 2 years, she finally found something. Something more terrifying than these foul bastards. Hope, what do you want? Where did you get this? She cuddled the disintegrating garment. No small talk? She held his burning gaze. Fair enough. He was wearing it when we found him. Where? Not far. Right under your nose, actually. A neighbor. A fucking what? She leapt up, anger hammering her chest. He held out his hands. Calm, Anna. I'm here to help, Anna. Help? Why? Let's say I've a soft spot for the innocent and outcast. He gestured to sit. She complied. Although it's not the only reason. You see, I provide a service to our little community of Hartville. And you? Well, you are 2 birds, 1 stone. Wouldn't it be nice to stop running? Get the vengeance you deserve. Vengeance? I just want my son. Please. Her voice broke, unstoppable tears falling. You'll want revenge. Boss man studied his nails without a care in the world. A local woman came to me, told me of a man, a terrible man, patrolling the local parks and schools. Said he was offering sweets and toys to her nieces to get into his van. Smart girls ran away. The police, however, did little. The law is weak that way. He paused, puffed his cigar, and blew smoke into Anna's face. So I sent some of my hounds. He nodded to Yellow Eyes and Machete, to rain some hell on this pervert. Thing is, it was clear that his house, his deviant prison, was being used by more than just him. A ring, as they say. We searched the premises, found poor Jimmy chained to a bed frame in the basement with 2 others, little more than malnourished sex dolls. Anna's stomach turned, terror and anger searing her insides. She wanted to hurt someone, anyone. A little torture goes a long way, Anna. Remove a little flesh, and tada. The pervert gave up the names of his accomplices. Would you like to know who they are? Jaw clenched. She hissed the word. Who? I'll give you 3 names. You do what needs to be done. You'll see your boy again. We have a deal? How will I get back here? I don't know. Levi will go with you. Yellow's eyes winked at her. So, is that a yes? No sooner had she agreed than that damn canvas bag was pulled over her head once more. Anna dove into the station wagon's back seat, ears ringing, heart thumping, throat choked with the metallic aftertaste of gunpowder. Levi smiled between the seats. Damn, Miss Crawford, you a cold bitch. No hesitation. He opens the door, and you just fucking drive already. Anna barked, balling the cuff of her jacket and rubbing at the crimson mottling her face. Ha, okay, you the boss tonight. Anna stared out the rear window at the tree-lined street and white picket fences speeding by. Concerned neighbors stumbling into the road to investigate the woman, wailing over her husband's body at 46 Broken Ridge Avenue. Little did they know the service Anna just did for them. Eradicated suburban filth. First of 3, she rested the revolver on her knee. Somehow, it felt lighter, as if that one bullet carried away the weight of her suffering, her loss. But he wasn't lost. He was waiting for her. Something unexpected curled the edge of her lip. "You smiling, Miss Crawford?" Levi asked into the rearview mirror. "You are. Cold bitch. You're going to fit real nice." She shook her head, dismissing both comment and grin. "Who's next? Edward?" "Calhoun." Anna repeated the name, tracking her finger down the apartment buzzer's nameplates. There you are. 2 short buzzes, a click, a cough, then, "Hello, who's there?" "Mr. Calhoun, sorry to disturb you." She already picked a name from those displayed. "This is Jessica Longstein. I've lost my key again. And you were the first to..." Yeah. The electrical hum of the magnetic release sent a chill down her spine. Not fear, but anticipation. 1 step closer to Jimmy, 4 flights of stairs. 1 long, worn, carpeted hallway. And she stood outside his peeling door. Patiently, she waited for a Latino couple to get on the elevator, then knocked, placing a hand over the spyglass. Floorboards groaned from within. A chain rattled, a bolt slid, and she found herself staring at a stout, unshaven man in his 50s, wearing a blue telecoms shirt. "What can I do for you, Missy?" "This is for Jimmy." His eyes stretched, fearful wide. At the name, the crazed redhead at his door, or the gun inches from his face. It didn't matter. Pull, click, bang. His last thoughts sprayed over the cracked plaster inside, his body collapsing as though its bones turned to mud. For a second, she watched him, hopeless, pathetic, no longer a danger. She breathed deep. 1 to go. "Miss Crawford, yo, Anna. Startling awake, she grabbed Levi's poking hand, blinked into focus, then looked about. She lay in the back of the car. A cul-de-sac of 2-story houses loomed outside, quiet with barely a light on, the moon hanging low, shimmering off their slate roofs. Anna stretched, cracked her neck, then shook her face. "How long were we driving? I can't believe I fell asleep." "It's the adrenaline. Big come down. Happens all the time. I took the long way here. Had to avoid prying eyes. That last one definitely got some flashing light attention. But this is it here, Miss Crawford." Levi pointed out the side window to a silhouetted figured light by the glow of a computer screen, typing into the small hours. Anna sucked her teeth, sniffed, pulled the lapels of her jacket, then checked her gun. Dirty bastard was probably on some chat site, pretending to be a teen girl or some other filth. You ready? And willing, Anna answered, shuffling and gently closing the door. She caught sight of her reflection, frazzled and blood-specked, and an idea fizzled into being. She grabbed her arm, dragged her leg, and hobbled towards the downstairs window. It didn't take long for him to spot her. Taking off his glasses, he twitched the curtains. "Mister, please," she whimpered. "I went off the road, round the corner. I need..." Holding up a hand, he dashed from the room. A porch light sparked to life, and the front door opened. "You okay, lady? What the hell?" He spun, roaring, as the bullet tore through his shoulder. He tried dragging himself back across the perfectly manicured lawn, but it was useless. The hammer fell. Back of the head, he jerked, spasmed, fell still. It was done. She smiled, running back to the car. She could already feel Jimmy in her arms. Her sweet, innocent little Jimmy. The macabre cabaret garnered no interest this time around, and she stared straight at Boss Man when the canvas bag was removed. "My boy," she said, not a request, placing the revolver on the table before her. He smiled, swirled a glass of red wine, drank, then nodded to no one in particular. Eternity stretched out before her, biting her lip, fingers drumming the scarred tabletop. She couldn't quite believe it. She'd finally found him. Two great bulking necklace forms lumbered from the shadows, a metal box held between them. It thudded onto the table before her. Boss Man grinned, tapping its top. Giggles simmered behind her as she lifted the lid with trembling hands. Tears exploded, lip quivering, shoulders shaking. There was no mistaking it. Those cheekbones, large, hollow eyes, even the skin dried and rippled as it was. She touched his forehead, sweeping away a dirty blonde fringe, and kissed him. She pulled his cracking and snapping corpse into her arms, his jaw swinging open in one last horrific scream. Falling to her knees, she pressed him close to her chest, where he belonged. Why didn't you tell me?" she spluttered between sobs. "I said you'd see him again. Here you go." Laughter rose like hyenas on the hunt. The unwashed bodies pressing coffin close around her. "It's okay, honey," she whispered to her son, rocking back and forth. "I got the bastards. I got them. 2 of them, anyway," Boss Man sneered. "What?" I said there were accomplices. I didn't say all 3 were. You humans are so eager to jump to your worst instincts. Oh dear God. Oh God. He can't help you, Anna. We have a long-standing arrangement. He finished the wine with a lip smack. "Why are you doing this to me? You're monsters, all of you." Boss Man leaned forward. "Didn't I say I've a soft spot for the innocent? Poor Jimmy suffered because of you. You're the monster who left her 6-year-old son alone in the park whilst you scored some smack," she wailed. "I'm clean now. It seemed pointless to try to explain. It wasn't going to bring him back. "What the fuck are you?" she roared. "You know already. You've always known. And now you're mine, forevermore." To a cacophony of laughter, she lowered Jimmy's remains back into the metal box, slowly closed the squeaking hinge, said goodbye, and gave up, her finger wrapped around the trigger, the barrel cold beneath her chin. Perhaps in death she could be a better kind of mother. "See you soon, son." The courthouse. Almost 8:30 a.m. It was just before court would begin when his dead client, Mr. Black, showed up to talk. Benny knew the consequences for being late, so was short with him. "Why are you here now?" He spoke in a hushed tone to the apparition in front of him, glancing around as the Alameda County courtroom began to fill up. It would ruin his reputation as the best public defender in the county if people thought he spoke to ghosts. Mr. Black's gray suit, the one he used to always wear, appeared now to fit him well. His cuffs were no longer frayed, the holes gone. Benny tasted the bitter shame of his failure with Mr. Black's case as his stomach knotted. "You owe me more." Mr. Black's voice was flat and emotionless, so different from his last day in this courtroom, when the coughs racked his body, his handkerchief filled with blood. Benny's elbows pressed into the table. The air in the courtroom hung thick and stale. His thin fingers nudged the yellow pad, straightening it imperceptibly. He moved his two pens, one black and one red, so that they were even to the pad. "I paid my debt," Benny whispered. "With the last one." Mr. Black's anger roared like a fire, heating up the air around Benny like a blast furnace. The other, past inhabitants of this room, raged, their hate overwhelming him, even with so many clients. Benny prided himself that he cared about everyone, those he had saved from jail time, and those who were put away. Mr. Black was the first one to come back and visit him, though, after dying in prison, professing his innocence with his last breath. For the accused, Benny, king of the pleas, was the PD to get in, Alameda County. Most of his clients walked, or at least avoided jail time. Benny averaged 600 cases each year, however, so had some losses. And Benny felt the pain of everyone, but innocence and guilt have no place in the criminal justice system. And Benny had begun to wonder if his work meant anything. Some of his clients were monsters, and better off behind bars. Benny worked for his clients, but he lived in this city, had to deal with the crime and violence. Should he put his thumb on the scales of justice? Today, his past clients were weighing in, screaming in thunderous rage, frustration, and anger at what happened to them in this cursed room. "I shouldn't be here," "It's not my fault," one voice called out. "I'm innocent!" shouted another, then echoed over and over again into a cacophony, overwhelming Benny. Mr. Black's face leaned in to Benny, his voice roaring. "Pay up, or else." Bang, bang, bang. A gavel thundered, echoing off the wood walls around him. Mr. Black left, fading into the crowd and taking the voices with him. Benny released his breath, trying to focus on where he was and why. "The court is called to order," the judge called out. A pale, gray man with red and piercing eyes. His head floated above his black cloak. Benny blinked, looking around as the colors of the room came into focus. A man in an ill-fitting suit slumped next to him, eyes downcast. Fear vibrated in waves off the man. The fingers of his left hand pick at the nails of his right, over and over. The scraping sound like claws on steel bars. He leaned over to Benny. "Mr. Benny, we're going to be okay, right? You're going to save me. I mean, we have the receipt. It proves I wasn't there for the rape. They can't put this one on me." Benny nodded, but didn't turn. The man's high-pitched voice whined like a broken motor, his breath hot. Benny suddenly hated him, loathed him for being here and needing Benny's help. His life depended on Benny doing his job correctly. Did this man even deserve it? Benny peered toward him, just a glance out of the corner of his eye. Lean as a mop handle, he could not keep still, shoulders moving, fingers picking at imaginary flecks on his borrowed suit and the skin of his hands. Benny's lip curled in disgust. He opened the file, the case notes in perfect order, the receipt on top, stamped with proof of this man's location across town at the time of the sexual assault. The man's arm crossed in front of Benny, his skin red and mottled with sores. He pushed the receipt with a scarred finger. "My Monopoly card, get out of jail free." He laughed. "I need to keep that. There are a few other girls they don't know about yet." The man winked. Benny brushed his fingers on the receipt, manicured fingernails pale over his dark skin, smoothing the wrinkled paper. A loud rushing sound filled Benny's head. They called to him, his clients who had been in the wrong place at the wrong time, whose lives he could not save due to a lack of this kind of solid alibi. He heard them screaming, shouting at the unfairness, the inhumanity. At the district attorney's table across from him, a tall, thin woman stared with shrewd, cold eyes. She turned away to put her head down into a stack of files. Voices cried out from her table too. People wronged and insulted in the worst way. Losing property, their self-respect, or their family, and then forced to sit in this horrible room and go home with nothing but tears and anger. Their voices were loud. "Punish! Vengeance! An eye for an eye!" The screams racked Benny's brain, and he shut his eyes. His hands flew to his temple, pressing in to quiet their cries. Bang, bang, bang. The gavel thundered again. Benny stood, motioning to his client to stand as well. Benny clenched his jaw and knew the answer to his dilemma. Forget what was best for the client or society. Benny needed to look out for himself. This man will be sacrificed to Mr. Black to appease him and the demons chasing Benny. This man was guilty, of course. Maybe not for this crime, but for another, Benny was certain. Benny will change places, go from the defender to the accuser, from the protector to the judge. His fingers moved, just a brief sweep, and the paper receipt floated unseen, down out of the file, into the trash can. Gone. The trial moved fast. A police officer, serious and trustworthy in his pressed blue uniform, pointed at the man next to Benny. "That's the guy." Whispers erupted from the courtroom. Bodies shifted on the wooded seats, squeaking with their movements. "That man is just evil. I could tell right off," someone said. "The monster should hang for what he did to that girl." Another voice added. Bang, bang, bang. Justice thundered down from on high. "The verdict is guilty," the judge shouted, a sneer on his face. "Next." Benny squeezed his eyes shut as the voices in his head roared out, echoing, "Guilty! Guilty!" The bailiff pulled on the man next to him. "No, I'm innocent," he screamed. "Mr. Benny, what happened?" Mr. Black appeared in front of Benny, nodding before he left, with the man to his future hell. Then the voices were gone, the sudden silence deafening. Benny picked up his red pen to carefully put a small X to the end of the line of thousands of black and red marks, then lifted the next file off the foot-high stack next to him. "Justice will be done. Monster with two faces. She tries to persuade me every time I see her. The problem is, she doesn't know me like I know me. She doesn't know I have two faces. One, an angelic face, acceptable to society. It's the one I show her and everyone else. The other face is an unsettling one, with the coolness of its dead gray eyes and the chill of its lifeless skin. I keep it locked inside the most hidden parts of me. I can't show it to the world. They won't accept it. "How are you doing today, Nicole?" she asks as she sips her chamomile tea. The smell makes me nauseous. I hate the smell of lavender. If not the lavender, it could be the honey. Whatever smell exists inside her cup, making her so calm. My fingers itch to shatter the mug in her hands and watch her lose her composure. I detest the way she tilts her head. Mostly, I can't stand the pity in her eyes as she uses her words to claw at my layers. She wants to understand me. I want to understand why she wastes her time. I've spent years with myself, and even I don't know how I became this sick creature writhing in on itself in front of her. Actually, that's a lie. It takes a monster to create a monster. Still, what happens when a monster wants to become human? I search her face like she holds the keys to my humanity. I can't complain. I smile through my words. Life treats me well enough. The clock ticks down on the wall like a slow, dripping faucet. 58 minutes to go. She watches me watch the door. I imagine I look like a dog thrown in a tub for a bath. I need to be clean, yet I watch the door because I hate the water. I watch it like my life depends on it. Any second, the door will crack open with an escape from this horrible magnifying glass I'm under. I wait for more words to pour out of her like suds washing away the dirtiest parts of me. Last time, we made real progress. I'm proud of you for sharing pieces of your past. It can be hard to share parts of yourself with a stranger. Her words irritate my nervous system, setting me on edge. I'm not sharing parts of me to make her proud. She speaks to me like I have a choice being here. I don't have a choice. I am sick. I am so sick inside. Society says sitting on a couch is the answer to sewing my aching flesh back together into something that looks human. It isn't hard, actually. When I talk about myself, I don't feel anything at all. It's like talking about a stranger to a stranger. She takes another slow sip of her disgusting tea and pierces me with her eyes. They're green with layers of yellow, like a dying lawn on a hot summer's day. Her legs cross in crisp pants, white like hospital walls. I stare with an empty feeling in my chest at her sandals. Her toes peek through the tops with a fresh red pedicure. Rich blonde highlights color her hair, not a single strand out of place. She holds herself together with confidence and grace. I can't help wondering what it's like to love yourself like that. I can't help wondering what it's like to love yourself at all. Last time we spoke about your uncle. Do you want to talk more about what happened? How's your boyfriend? I ask. Is he still out of town? Must be hard. She takes the bait. He should be back the 1st of next month. We spend the next 30 minutes talking about the places he travels for work. She's oblivious to the way I can bat around our conversations like a cat with a mouse. I can't say why I waste these sessions like this. I can, but no one will like the answer. I waste them because I want help, and I don't want help. I want to pretend I'm putting in the work to be more human. Look at me. I am one step closer to being like all the other humans around me. I'm not an empty shell. I am not a monster. with 10 minutes of our session left on the clock. I feel safe sliding over another dirty part of me for her to clean. My fingers tangle themselves in the gray fleece blanket on her couch while I choose my words. I won't tell her the full truth. I'll tell her half and see how she reacts. You never know with humans. They say they want to help you. They only want what's best for you. In my experience, they will throw you under the bus the moment it serves them. I'm not condemning them. Don't get me wrong. How could I? I do the same thing and worse. Sometimes I throw people under the bus for no reason other than because I feel like it. I think I have an addiction, I confess. Her response is safe and neutral. A lot of people struggle with addictions. It takes a lot of courage to ask for help. I rearrange my face into what I think looks like relief. That makes me feel better. Her lips are glossed over with rosy pink tint. I watch, fascinated with the way they glisten as she speaks. What are you struggling with? I pause before I answer. I'm shifting through my memories of the night before. I've been seeing the same man for 6 weeks. His name isn't important. I don't bother too often with things like that. It lasted a little longer this time than it usually does. Thoughts of his hands on my thighs and his lips on my neck make me shiver. I consider how to tell this perfect blonde woman in front of me how sex is the only thing that makes me feel anything at all. 6 weeks before him, it was someone who only lasted 10 minutes. Anthony, was it? We locked eyes in the elevator on our way to biology. College campus was always deserted for our late-night classes. He had dark hair and a lazy smile. His brown eyes lingered on mine a bit too long after the doors closed. And I knew. I closed the gap between us and slipped my tongue into his mouth. He tasted like strawberry Pop-Tarts. He didn't move for a moment. And then, there he was, sliding warm hands up my dress like they had a right to be there. Men are like that. I can't seem to stop eating, I confess. We have only a few minutes left of our session. She spends this time talking to me about how to sit with cravings. It's all in one ear and out the other. She tells me when the impulses hit me, try to resist for as long as I can. If I can resist for 1 hour, resist for 1 hour. If I can resist for 5 minutes, resist for 5 minutes. I smile and thank her for the session. You help me so much. I am grateful for these discussions. I can't tell you how much you've done for me since I started seeing you for therapy. I lie. I quickly shoot for the door. An hour of compassion, real or fake, is too much for me. It makes my skin crawl when people show things like affection or kindness. I wish she would tell me I'm disgusting. I long to hear her tell me I am a waste of space who can't be saved. Anything. out of those perfect pink lips resembling the truth. Instead, she wastes all our time with empty words as she tries to convince me I am not a monster. Hours after our session, I find myself with a strange man I don't know. We had talked earlier on a dating app. He's attractive enough, with a single dimple on his left cheek when he smiles. Not that looks really matter much to me. I slide into a green Toyota Camry with a missing passenger mirror. It smells like cigarettes and old fast food bags. "Baby, you are so hot," he tells me as he paws at my thigh with his calloused fingers. I'll be honest, there is a small part of me who wishes I would stop doing this to myself. I hate the way I give myself to anyone who asks. Yet, that's the thing about addictions. Even if you hate yourself for it, you can't stop. I take his hand and slide it further up my skirt. I hear him breathe in deep, and I can tell how much he wants me. His car brings us to a gloomy-looking house in a sketchy part of town. We are in a dark room that smells like sweat. Before I can blink, he is on me. His fingers are wrapping around my throat. He holds me down, taking what he wants. His other hand is lost in my hair. He pulls it rough enough. It stings, bringing tears to my eyes. I want to scream for him to stop. I don't. Like I told you before, I'm sick inside. I hold myself hostage and force myself to lay still. I won't escape from this. I'll stay until I learn to love it. If I were a bit more human, this would be nothing for me. I'd love it all the same ways all the other humans do. It's only because I am a monster that I feel disgusting inside. The night sky is empty, abandoned by the moon, as we climb in the car for him to take me home. He tells me how captivated he is by my smile, how when he saw it for the first time, he felt like he was the only person left in the world. He asks me when he can see me again. I already know the answer as I climb from his car to the asphalt parking lot, glittering in the street light. The concrete stairwell swallows me into its many shadows, and I am indifferent to the fact I'll never see him again. Another week passes, and I am on her couch again, the therapist. I can feel the bruises on my thighs. There are marks all over my body she can't see, even as I sit in front of her. It's always like this. How often do we sit in front of another person's eyes, and they can't see the wounds covering us? It makes me laugh. Part of me thinks I should confess. I don't bother. You can't tell someone about the wounds you inflict on yourself. Wasn't I asking for it? How are we doing this week, Nicole? I'm fine. How are you? Small talk makes me gag. Even so, I've learned to play the game over the years. It's empty when someone asks you how you are. they ask. Yet I promise, when you tell them what's really beneath your surface, they will avoid you after. We're all liars here. Monsters like me are more willing to admit the truth. Ironic, isn't it? How are the nightmares? My body clenches at her words, like she hit me. This is what I'm here for, I remind myself. I'm here to fix my disfigured mind, my malformed thinking, my disturbed existence. I'm here to become human again. He was in them, I admit. As soon as I say the words, he's there with me on the couch. He tucks loose pieces of hair behind my ear and drags me back to our memories together. You're such a pretty girl, Nicole. You know it, don't you? I am 10 years old again, and I nod. I love it when he makes me feel special like this. I am the only one he talks to this way. I mean so much to him. He places an innocent hand on my shoulder and then pulls with long fingers at the lace on my sleeves. Do you like this dress I bought for you? I love it, I tell him, while I give the white lacy dress a twirl for his viewing pleasure. I never knew my dad, so this relationship is special for me. Uncle Dean always goes out of his way to do nice things for my sake. No one has to tell me how lucky I am to have him take care of me. He pulls me onto his lap, where he tugs at my fly-away curls, twisting their chestnut-colored locks in his hands. People tell him all the time what a cute little girl he has. They tell me I look like him. It's almost as if I'm his daughter and not his niece. I've been thinking, Nicole, you are getting older now. And with what a pretty girl you're turning out to be, we have some things to talk about. I look at his eyes, a cold mixture of gray and blue, and hang on to his every word. I've noticed in the past the way people look at him when we go out together. His hair is blonde and wavy in a way that complements his fair skin. His shoulders are broad, and the arms he holds me with are strong, with thick muscles. He's handsome. It's not just me who listens when he speaks. It's like the people around him can't help it. His words are always captivating. His smile makes you feel like you are the only person in the world. I'm proud he belongs to me. I'm worried boys will start giving you problems. He frowns, and it crushes me. I study his lips and wonder what's wrong with me, that boys will give me problems. I can't stand the look of displeasure on his face. I'll do anything to replace it with a smile. My fingers find the bottom of my dress, where I tear at it helplessly. I can't let myself be a burden to him, not when he took responsibility for a child who wasn't his. I think it's important for me to teach you how to handle them for when you're older, don't you think? I nod, eager to cheer him up. You're a good girl, Nicole. I know you'll do fine. He leans in close to my ear, with my curls still twisted in his fingers. When you get older, men will expect you to please them. I don't want you to worry. I'll teach you how. I'll teach you everything you need to know. A voice startles me from my memories. Nicole? Nicole? Where did you go? I look up and see her. The therapist. The one who is supposed to hold all the answers to my questions. The angel who tells me none of this is my fault, and how I am not the monster he made me. I smile towards her, as if I had been here on the couch with her the whole time. I smile as if I don't remember every single lesson he taught me. Is everything all right? Her eyes are concerned. You have tears running down your face. I lift a hand to my cheek and realize she's telling the truth. I touch the wetness with fingers that don't feel like my own. This happens to me all the time. I'm in my body, but I'm not. I don't understand where the tears come from either. After all, I am a monster. I'm numb. Whether I hurt others or make them laugh, I feel nothing inside me at all. This is a safe place, Nicole. I'm here to listen. I can't help finding her words amusing. I've been to safe places before, you see. That's where I discovered safe places are the most dangerous places of all. The places where you let down your guard and trust the people around you, leave you vulnerable. Those kinds of places are where monsters live. You enter them and never know they're watching you, waiting. They wait for the moments they can bury their claws into your flesh, taking things from you that you will never get back. Monsters are real, despite those who lack conviction. It's only fools who believe in safe places. Last night, I sat on my kitchen floor and ate an entire cake. I lie to her again. I couldn't stop myself. Don't you think that makes me disgusting? I can't tell if her sympathy is real or fake. I can't tell if she only has one face, the face she looks at me with, or if she too has another one buried deep inside her. I study her cheetah print shirt and the gold hoop earrings underneath her straightened hair. I can't tell if she's human or if she's another monster like me. We hide so well sometimes that we don't even recognize the monsters deep inside ourselves. Of course, I don't think that, she tells me. Her words offer me the smallest amount of relief. I feel myself relax for only a fraction of a second. It's all I can ever relax after I turned into this creature. I give her my best smile. You don't think I'm a monster? She reassures me she doesn't. I slide out of her heavy wooden door after the rest of our session has passed and remind myself she is a professional. If she saw a human without a beating heart in front of her, she would know it wasn't human anymore. The fact that she doesn't, it means there is still hope for me. The barber's pole. Oscar sits in his barber's chair, reading the Trentonian on his iPhone. cataloging the day's stories for the early rush. Oscar pays special attention to the stock charts and the upcoming highway projects. People love to talk about making money and to complain about traffic. The bell rings and Michael walks in. He is a tall, well put together trader type in his early 30s, wearing a crisp white button-down and expensive men's Oxford shoes. Oscar yells, "Maria! Maria! Customer! Get in here, I need a wash." Oscar packs the espresso filter basket with Stumptown hair bender, espresso grinds, and tamps down the shot of brown powder. He purges the group head with a quick shot of steam, then locks the filter into the espresso machine and starts brewing. The dark, black espresso drips like droplets of dark, black blood. Drip, drip, drip. Then the platelets of the steamy brew ruffle out the lighter oils and gases, lathering them into a milky brown crema in the top of the white espresso cup. It looks like coagulating blood congealing around the white skin of a fresh wound. The association with blood unsettles Oscar. The thought of fresh red blood, thick and full, like pomegranate juice. The irresistible impulse to cut. His mind stirs with perverse thoughts that he cannot silence, even though it is before 9 o'clock a.m. The Oscar pours 2 shots of minty Sambuca Romana alongside the espressos. Something to take the edge off. "Hair of the dog that bit ya," Oscar says, thinking of bite marks on an arm and the serrated cuts of the canine teeth drawing out syrupy red nectar. "Here, sit down, and let's get you a wash." Oscar ushers Michael over to Maria's washing station and down into the sliding chair that leans back over the sink and pushes his head back over the neck rest. Oscar takes his shot and feels a gnawing in his stomach at the thought of blood, an unfathomable craving to drain life from the veins. Maria has inky black hair, still wet from her own morning shower. The fresh, earthy shampoo scents of lavender and mint waft off of her. She also has a hint of a touch of perfume, maybe a Chanel, tantalizing with a musky base and notes of fresh, dense jasmine and the acidic afterbite of citrus. She is college age, but too young to drink legally. Fresh and pure, with clean blue eyes and smooth skin. She speaks in a sing-song way, softly, like a hushed breath. "Here, close your eyes. Here, is it too warm? Now, relax your shoulders. Almost done." Oscar is making a trade on his dual trading screens in the corner to distract himself from his bloodlust, while he waits for Michael's wash to be finished. Maria places Michael's head back under the mobile shower head, pours water over his forehead, and smooths the baby fine threads of silky blonde hair back with her soft hands and delicate, ringed fingers. Michael feels the warmth of her palm and the cold of her rings under the rushing water. Maria applies the shampoo and works it through his blonde, straight hair, massaging his forehead and pulling the lather and water back all the way down past his ears to his neck. Then she sits him up and begins toweling him off. "Ready?" Oscar says. He hands Michael his shot of liqueur, which he abruptly drinks, and then sits down in Oscar's chair and dons the barber's apron. "What'll it be? The usual?" As Michael nods, Oscar methodically cleans his Wall Pro Series clippers. He uses a brush to clear the blades and carriage, then sprays some sanitizing disinfectant, twice facing up, once facing down. He applies 3 or 4 drops of oil to the toe and heel of the blade. He runs the clipper, then wipes them down, and begins methodically fading the hair with different length settings to accomplish a clean skin fade. As Oscar cuts and the two men talk, Oscar notices a small skin lesion, a brown mark by the earlobe. It glistens in the fluorescent overhead lighting. "It's been rough," Michael says. "Hey, what do you think of this P&G stock?" Oscar asks. "I'm depressed, Oscar. I feel useless. I don't make any good decisions these days. I don't think you should take my advice on anything. The smell of barbasol is stirred up and invades the nose. A smell of oak moss, coumarin, and clove, intrusive as old eggs." She left him a note. "Dinner is on the table. I was tired," Oscar explains, trying to let Michael know that while it sucks to be out of work, it is a good time to reflect. After all, it is sometimes work that gets in the way of relationships. There is nothing like your own flesh and blood to drive you to madness. Now, it is time for the shave with the straight razor. Oscar reaches over his shoulders and unbuttons the top 2 buttons. He then takes a paper towel and places it over the back collar of the shirt. Oscar unbuttons the cape and drapes it loosely over the shoulders. He pulls out a fresh linen towel and lays it over Michael's right shoulder. He then grabs a hot towel from the towel warmer with a set of tongs and pats it on the chin, mouth, upper lip, and cheeks, while Michael leans his head back and enjoys the steam of the towel, laid now over his forehead and eyes. Oscar uses a small brush to foam the hot lather in a cup. "You have a little growth I haven't seen before," Oscar says. "Oh yeah," Michael says. "Here, take a look," Oscar says, showing him the mirror and where the little brown bump peeks out from the mounds of shaving foam. "Huh, guess I do," Michael says. "After your shave, you want me to lance it off?" Oscar asks, hopefully. "Yeah, guess so," Michael says reflexively. Oscar licks his lips, purses them, nods his head up and down, and feels the adrenaline of the thought of blood rise to his forehead. What a rush. Oscar takes the straight razor off the shelf. He takes a fresh blade from the paper wrapping and places it in the stabilizers, by the shoulder of the blade. Oscar applies the hot lather and begins pulling the blade along the skin. The sound is close to Michael's ears and sounds like paper ripping, or like the sound of a rake on the sand. He keeps his eyes closed as Oscar finishes the shave. All the while, Oscar's heart is beating quickly, and his eyes are dilated and buggy in the mirror. A droplet of sweat forms on his brow, just a small nick in the right spot. No. He mustn't think of it. He already has his treat. You ready? Oscar says. No time like the present, Michael tells him. Then Oscar applies pressure, and the blade slips into the skin, just below the imperfection. The slightest circular wince and a pull back out from the cut. As Oscar withdraws the blade and the lesion in one stroke, fresh, syrupy blood pools, the drip of blood. The whooshing sound of the blood flowing through the veins, the gurgle of coagulating blood, clotting and sealing the wound. Oscar feels giddy. There are goosebumps on the back of his neck, and he feels a jolt of adrenaline throughout his whole body. Oscar takes a styptic pencil to bind the wound. The saliva pools on the back of his tongue, looking at the juicy red drops. In a moment, the wound is treated, and all is well. See you in 2 weeks, Oscar says. Michael hands him a tip, pats his shoulder, and heads out into the bright midday sun. All afternoon, Oscar paces back and forth, turning the chair over with customer after customer. But the call of the blood is like a voice in his head. The dark impulses well up from an unknown source. Try as he might, Oscar can't put it out of his mind. Oscar knows that in medieval times, the barber's pole was a sign of the bloodletting that old-time barber surgeons would perform in their shops. The poles are blue for the veins revealed under a tourniquet, and red for the flowing blood. It was thought that draining one's blood into a metal dish would extract bad humors that caused disease. Barbers also performed amputations, pulled and cleaned teeth, set bones, and even delivered babies. But Oscar could not get the thought of blood out of his head. E.B. had gone down to Two Brothers Pizza and brought back an Italian sub that smelled like wet feet and oil. As he ate it in giant bites, Oscar thought of the gush of blood a bite into human flesh would make. Maria skipped over and plopped down in Oscar's chair. You want me to scrape clean all the baby hairs on the back of your neck? Oscar asks Maria. If it isn't too much trouble, she whispers. Oscar gets his blade ready and pulls up Maria's hair into a high bun, carefully making sure to get all of it held up in the air. Oscar applies the hot foam lather. He begins scraping clean the neckline, but he can see and feel the arteries and veins drawing up her neck. The sound of the blood vessels, the blue rivers running just below the surface, the smell of her Chanel perfume, the moist, young, supple skin. Oscar cannot resist the perverse longing for blood. He is disgusted with himself, ashamed. But the cut is everything. Almost done, Oscar says, tensing the blade in his hand and looking for his mark. Thank you so much, Maria says. But Oscar chooses his spot and dips the blade into the willowy flesh. A gush of blood spurts. A gusher. It spurts in a few plops, like a garden hose with your thumb over the nozzle. Then drips down onto the rim of her white crew neck shirt, pooling out into the linen fibers. Ow, she yells. Did you cut me? Just a little nick. That's all, Oscar says. But his heart is racing and his hands are shaking from the excitement. He tends to her wound quickly, efficiently, and professionally, with great care. But Maria is not having it. I'm outta here, Pops. Until I get this looked at. Thanks a lot. Thanks for nothing, Maria says as she stomps out. But she will be back. Oscar smiles and pours himself some Sambuca Romana. E.B., he says, isn't it just the darndest thing how satisfying it is to make a clean cut? The fat apprentice barber looks up in shock, red onion and ham hanging out of his mouth, and attempts a smile, totally at a loss for what his boss is talking about. Oscar searches online for a proper bleeding bowl. Obviously, there is no such thing on Amazon. So, Oscar chooses an elegant stainless steel reserve bowl. At $43, it is a luxury purchase. Next, Oscar has to get his hands on a fleam. This is the best way to do bloodletting. It is clean and precise and quick, unless you tap the blade too hard and sever an artery. One would be surprised how fast a femoral artery bleeds out. Oscar purchases some tourniquets and various medical supplies. What will someone think if they find out what he is up to? A few days have passed, and Oscar's order has arrived. And this is Oscar's chance. Marjorie sits in Oscar's chair. She is in her 70s, a large black woman who wears gorgeous dresses and maintains the vanity of a much younger woman. She has great, dyed black hair that falls in waves. The fat of her lips and jowls is all in the right places to make for an inviting face that warms and endears. Found a spot on my liver. Maybe that is what is giving me all these liver spots and spider veins, she says. Maybe, Oscar says with a knowing grin. What's that look for? She asks. Nothing. It's just that they used to have a way to purify the liver. Back a long, long time ago, in medieval times. Purify the liver. Oh, yes, please. I could use some of that, Marjorie says. It's a little gothic, if you know what I mean. It involves a cut in the arm and draining your blood, Oscar says, as matter-of-factly as he can. Are you missing a screw? She says. I didn't think you'd be interested. It's only for people who are really serious about maintaining a youthful look, Oscar says. Evil humors. Heavens to Betsy. What will they think of next? She asks. Like I said, not for you. I already knew when I brought it up. But I have had some who've had miraculous results, Oscar said. Now, these results, it can clear up the skin, she asks. You would never believe me if I told you. Takes off 10 years, Oscar says. More than that, if you cut too deep, I'd imagine, Marjorie says. Well, we are all finished with your cut, so if there's nothing, I'll do it, Marjorie says. What, really? Oscar asks. Of course, 10 years, I have to see for myself, Marjorie says. Oscar fastens the tourniquet below her bicep. The veins under her black skin come forward. Deep blue rivers. Oscar begins to sweat, and his hands grow damp. 1 second, he yells, rushing to the back room for his bleeding bowl and fleam. In seconds, he emerges with the utensils. Marjorie is singing, Dit-da-dum, dit-da-dum. Are you washed in the blood? In the soul-cleansing blood of the Lamb? Are your garments spotless? Are they white as snow? Are you washed in the blood of the Lamb? As she hums and sings, Oscar sharpens the blade of the fleam. He places the bleeding bowl on the floor below her left arm. Are you ready, Marjorie? Oscar asks in hushed tones. Are you ready? Let's get it over with already, she says. Oscar places the fleam and its triangular blade just over the blood vessel on her left arm. It will just sting a bit, Oscar says, swinging his fist and digging the fleam deep into her arm. Oh dear, Marjorie says. I already feel a bit lightheaded. Oscar sees the trickle of blood run down the arm to the fingers and the drip, 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 drip into the bowl. He grabs her bicep with pumping squeezes and says, more like this, Marge. This is better. Stop, Oscar. You are hurting me, Marjorie says. Just a little more, and it'll run good, Oscar says, with faraway eyes, glazed over in a helical madness. I'm losing too much blood, Marjoire cries. I'm going to bleed out. But Oscar cleans the wound with alcohol, does a quick butterfly stitch to seal the vein and the wound, and makes quick work with the bandages. Marjorie is ghastly pale. She gets up. She is trembling. She drops some money on the floor and turns and walks out in a trance. I won't be seeing her again, Oscar thinks, as the little bell sounds. And she leaves. In the back of the shop, with the blood bowl in hand, engorged in endorphins, Oscar observes the blood, sniffs it, puts in a finger, swirls it around, and indulges in a little taste. It tastes like steak. It tastes great. E.B. comes back from running errands and storms right up to Oscar when he walks in. Boss, I got a call from Marjorie Jones on my way back over, E.B. says. Did you get the inspection stickers? Oscar says, referring to a little side business they have selling fake inspection stickers that are supposedly from the DMV. Boss, that woman nearly died, E.B. says. She was having skin problems, E.B. She was looking old. She proceeded at her own risk, Oscar says. Oh yeah? You have a lawyer sort that one out? E.B. asks. It's nothing out of the ordinary, Oscar says. Barbers have been doing it for hundreds of years. If you ever do anything like this again, I'm done. That's it, E.B. says. The blood. It is the most extraordinary thing. Dark and also light. Substantial, but also fluid. Are you losing it, Oscar? Are you literally going crazy? E.B. asks. You know the feeling when you give someone a perfect cut? Oscar asks, and continues. It is the same feeling. Exactly the same. Whatever, boss, E.B. says, sitting down and stress-eating his second hoagie of the day. Oscar walks back into the back of the shop and sees the old hand-drawn sign in the corner. Oscar's unisex cuts, 8 to 8 MS. Oscar goes into the refrigerator and stirs his fingers in the blood, then puts his whole palm in. Then he takes a fresh, hot towel and submerges it in the bloody liquid. He pulls it out and finds the white barber's pole that he bought from the specialty shop. He wraps the towel helically around the pole. It is a helical swirl of red and white, the red splatter of real blood. He puts the plastic covering over it, walking past E.B., eating his sub. Oscar goes outside and stands by the storefront. He takes a hammer and starts installing his new barber's pole. He stands back, hands on hips, admiring his work. His eyes are bloodshot from the adrenaline, and his lips are red from the blood. Vanish. I tried to be gentle. I tried to come to you slowly, revealing myself in fragments under the growing dimness of dusk. I stepped ever so carefully into the downward cast of the yellow street lamp's sepia light, sending forth first a finger, then a tentative but eager to caress hand. I moved so gently, so slowly, that I felt the cloak of darkness removed from my face, inch by inch, nose first, before there was no more hiding. I did this for you, as not to startle you. Didn't you see? I even smiled. Those sparks of kindness you all boast so easily, like the one you'd given me. And yet, you still screamed, shrieked even. A shrill shriek of survival, one of horror and fear, as if the very sight of me would be your upending. And how you ran, just took off, as if the wind came and swept you away, leaving no blame for yourself. I offered you my most sincere attempt at kindness, an approach akin to that of a person who wishes to greet a cute puppy. And how was it that you repaid me? Screaming and running away. Could you see how that would have made me angry? Do you understand why I had to do what I've done? All I'd ever wanted was to be with you, to be more like you. I just wanted to learn from you. If not for your outburst, things could have been different. I thought maybe you were different. I'd wanted you to be different. I'd hoped that you would be the one to accept me, welcome me, and show me what it was like to be like you. A glowing firefly in the night, leading me out of my solemn and lonely abyss. I thought you would be unlike the others, who'd taken one look at me and condemned me to hell with a snarl, thrusting a spear of fear between us like a barrier. Me and them, water and oil. Two things that could never mix. I'd hoped you'd be different. I hoped it with all the blood pumping in my chest. I thought you would see how much I'd longed for us to mix, and how much I'd dreamt of the opening of your arms wide, like I'd watched you do to so many others around you. Even that bowling ball of a man I saw you squishing faces with, his arms barely able to stretch around his own belly to wrap around you as you rocked slowly together behind your bedroom window. It was such a wonder to me how he was not greeted as I was, what with the cruel things I'd seen him doing. I'd wondered how the fear would gleam in your eyes once you'd finally learned the truth about the man you let stay in your bed. All those dirty and lustful glances he'd given the children at the park when you were not around, telling you he had late meetings so he could take the long way and feed his devilish desires, window shopping the younglings as they played. Yet, you did not look at him as the foul and disgusting monster he was. Instead, it was I with whom you'd shown such disgust and foulness, a violent terror shooting through those eyes at my unveiling this evening. You were certainly not how I'd hoped you would be. You were just like the others, who saw my burned and battered face, the scarred and charred mask of skin I'd been forced to present. I saw the judgment glinting between your lashes, just like the rest of them. Monster, they'd called me, without even giving me a chance, without even a hello or a flicker of pity. Even that I would have understood, maybe even welcomed. Perhaps that was what I'd been missing. A sympathizing and tender outreach. A compassionate soul there to guide me towards the light. After all, darkness was all I had ever known, all I had ever seen, save for the blinding blaze of the flames my mother tossed me into, spouting about how I'd belonged in hell for devouring my twin brother before he'd had a chance. I'd heard people say there is darkness in all of us. Perhaps I'd consumed all of my brother's when I took his life for my own. Perhaps we would have been all right if he'd not vanished before his first breath. Though perhaps not. What with the mother we had, he'd gotten the better end of the deal, I'd supposed. And what had mother expected? She, the tree. I, the apple. For years, I tried to be a good person. I tried to be anything but the sum of my scars. Tried to make friends. Tried to reach out. But you tell me how much of it one can take before he breaks. 1 year? 5 years? A decade? Try 3 decades. 30 years. Monster. You hear it enough, you start to believe it. No one gave me a chance. No one gave me the time of day. Just gruesome looks and disdained scowls. No hello nods passing on the streets or returned waves. No pleases and thank yous at the shops. Just flashes of fear and short silent submissions. Anything to end our interactions quickly. People saw me and saw a monster. So, I'd said, a monster? That's what you want? That's what you get. I'd decided I'd become the very thing deserving of those unpleasant greetings. I'd become the thing people always feared to be true, hiding away, seeking comfort in darkness, making nightmares a reality. What freedom, what relief to finally surrender to myself. Mother would have been proud, I'd thought, though I never did lift the pillow to find out, as she wiggled and writhed beneath my arms. Just a couple of minutes, Mother. You'll see your son soon. Even then, I wasn't convinced I was monstrous enough for her. After all, I'd done her a favor. Her death, my first, was much gentler than the ones who'd followed. The kindness I'd shown my mother was perhaps the last bit that existed in my body. Or, so I'd thought. The day that I met you enlivened a remaining ember I hadn't realized was still burning. There was a weak and muted flicker of something other than darkness that remained somewhere deep inside me, somewhere you were able to touch. Do you remember? That day at the coffee shop, your purple polka dot headband tied primly in a bow, your hair pulled back into a high bun with just a few curly strays dancing around the edges of your cheeks. How you'd actually smiled at me before asking for my order, and then how you'd thanked me once I'd paid, wishing me a good day. There was no grimace in your manner, no hesitation at my mutilated face. You were so pretty, so kind. Not like my mother, not like any of the others. How had I gone so many years without this perfect human? That is the most profound thing about darkness. Even a flash of light is enough to change the entire atmosphere. You were that light. So, there was still goodness in the world. There was still hope for me, past be damned. You showed me that, and so I'd followed you home that day, and many of the days since then. I watched you. I protected you, like the rarity that you were. I tried to preserve your kindness, study it, waiting in the shadows for our next encounter. And when I'd discovered there was already a man in your life, I'd followed him too. I had to make sure you were safe, that no one was threatening your goodness, as if your light was already spreading to me, the way fire always does. I cared for you by taking care of him. There was no room for a pedophile in your life. He was a threat to you, a rapid of white waters sure to extinguish you. I couldn't let that happen, but after he was gone, you disappeared. The next day, when I went into the coffee house, hoping to see you, expecting to see you, sparkling with relief and joy, for finally you were free. I did that. I'd envisioned it many times, me waltzing into your shop, you ready with open arms to thank me. Me, your savior. You, my savior. But you were not there. Then, or the next day, or the next. Where were you? I watched outside your house, the lights going on in the morning, then off as the evening turned to night. But you did not leave. You'd disappeared in plain sight, left me alone, locked yourself up in your house, as if freedom meant absolutely nothing to you. Had it been one more day out there waiting, I'll admit, I'm not sure I could have forgiven you for such ingratitude. So, you can imagine my delight when you stepped out for a walk this evening, the horizon still bleeding its last drops into the twilight, like a sign. You, my last dash of hope. Monster, they'd called me. They, but not you. So, why then did you scream? Why such a vile and repulsive response at the sight of me as I stepped out into the light to greet you? What had changed between our first meeting? I did not take you for flighty. And yet, you'd made my breath go raspy and harsh in our chase, as if I were a wolf and you, a delectable lamb. I'd only wished to greet you, to reacquaint ourselves after our unbearable separation, to refortify the promise of our union. That was the moment I'd realized it. Those endless, suffocating seconds. You were just like the others. There was no light in you at all. You saw me as they did. Monster, imagine the anger. Imagine the betrayal. I'd only ever wanted to be with you, to be more like you. But oh, how you fooled me. You were much harder to carry to the car than I'd thought you'd be. And you certainly had a strong and fiery fight in you. I suppose that was the light I thought I'd seen. Because looking at you now as you lay on my table, there is neither life nor light behind those bright, unblinking eyes. Am I living in a haunted house? I lay in bed reading a horror book when I see movement from the corner of my eye coming from the other side of the closed curtain. I slowly lower my book, my mind screaming at me not to. There is a shadow floating on the right side of my window. At first, I thought it was the shadow of the flag, flapping in the wind, but quickly realized this is no flag. I stare at the shadow as it moves up, then to the left, then down, then to the right, before repeating the cycle again. What the heck is it? I mutter. The shadow changes shape repeatedly until it stops, and now resembles the head of a dragon. At first, my curiosity piques, but then an unexplainable fear overtakes my senses, and I am on the verge of leaping out of bed. Whatever is distracting me does not bring peace my way, but a terror that will affect my lifetime. I thank God the curtain remains closed, for I do not care to see what is producing that shadow, for I had a feeling it will cause my sanity to leave me. Yet there seems to be an unknown force pulling me to the curtains. The shadow floats by my window for eternity, haunting me. I cannot pull my eyes from this shadow. Thankfully, it eventually dissipates, and I can relax. A weight lifts from my body, and the fear dissipates. I get up from the bed, wondering if I should go over to the window and throw open the curtains or exit the room. Restroom break, I say to myself as I open the door and walk down the hallway to the bathroom. This is the first eerie episode I had encountered in this house I recently occupied. A one-story home with a garage, living room, dining room, kitchen, laundry room, 3 bedrooms, and 1.5 bathrooms. No talk of evil spirits by the past owners, but would they honestly say such to me? For they did not look like such fools. They were the first occupants when the house came into existence, and all went well for them. That is what they say to the ignorant future owner. For the next week, I did my best to explain the bizarre episode. At first, a floating balloon entangled by the pole of the flag. But I never saw a balloon changing shapes by itself. My imagination tends to run wild, especially when I am reading a book. Could this be my imagination at work? I purchased a couple of small dogs to keep me company, not long after. Not intimidating to the human world, but hopefully toward the ones from the beyond. It made me feel much better to have another living being in my house. A month went by when the next episode took place in my house. "Get out of there!" I call out to Bingo, the mischievous one, who is trying to get into the fireplace, for I have thrown the covering to the bacon into the place. As I went back to the recliner, I thought I heard a noise come from the back door. I stop in my tracks and listen for a time, but only hear Bingo moving about. I look around, not seeing Ringo, so possibly him. The dog's food and water dish are in the laundry room, close to the back door, so very will possible, so thought nothing of the matter as I go over to sit, and back to the book on the Crusades. Not long after I started reading, I heard the noise again. It sounded like something tapping on the door, then tapping the floor, then back to tapping the door. I sat there for about a minute, listening to the episode. "Ringo!" I called out. The tapping stopped. What is that dog doing? I get ready to walk around the corner and into the kitchen to the laundry room, when I hear a distinct sound that stops me in my tracks. The sounds of a heavy boot walking from the laundry room toward where I am. I look around, trying to find something to use as a weapon. I see the small baseball bat lying next to the chair. I quickly grabbed the bat as the steps came closer. I raise it up, ready for the intruder to come around the corner. If the intruder has a gun, my life will end. But I will get in a good swing or two, I hope. I continue to wait as the footsteps cross the kitchen floor, but seems to be taking too long to appear in front of me. I stand there, not sure what to do. The steps stop, and the anxiety goes up. For is the intruder going to appear, or do I go to it? I ponder if I should call out, but it would more than likely come out as a squeak, so kept my mouth shut. Perspiration covers my body as fear grips me. I stand for who knows how long, trying to decide what to do. Decision abruptly comes forth as I step forward toward the kitchen, with the bat raised to swing. I near the entrance to the kitchen, wondering if I should jump out or peek around the corner. Just get it over with, I thought. I leaped out, prepared to swing, but there was no one there. Instead, Ringo looked up at me. I looked toward the laundry room, seeing no movement. There is no way you could have made those sounds, I said to Ringo. Ringo walked past me into the living room, leaving me to confront the intruder. I meandered through the kitchen toward the laundry room, preparing for the intruder to leap out. But when I entered the laundry room, there was no one there. I checked the doorknob, locked. What could have created those noises? I muttered. There was only one other place I had not checked out, and that was past the laundry room and into the bathroom. The room only had a sink and a toilet, so there was no space for the perpetrator to hide. I walked to the bathroom, seeing no one in the room. I went over to the window and saw it latched shut. Nothing, I said. I turned around and was about to leave the bathroom when I heard the footsteps again. They started on the other side of the kitchen, coming toward me, but my eyesight saw nothing. I grabbed the doorknob and slammed the door shut as the steps entered the laundry room. I quickly locked the door as the steps came up to the door and stopped. I had the bat raised, ready for whatever tried to break in. If I still had my sanity, I would realize the bat would do nothing to my invisible terror. What am I experiencing? I thought. Too much horror I'm taking in that is bringing madness upon me. I am not a believer in ghosts, but is this what I am encountering? Am I living in a haunted house? I mutter. As I mutter the words, I hear the tapping on the floor, then on the back door, then back to the floor. This went on for a time before it stopped. Then the footsteps started up again, heading to the other end of the kitchen, ending. I slowly opened the door, seeing there was no one around. I need to get out of this area. I rushed toward the living room, at one moment feeling quite cold, but soon I was in the living room by the fireplace. Both dogs lay on the couch, looking at me. "What is your problem?" I can imagine them saying. I went over to the coffee table and grabbed the remote control, put on some sound, and hopefully that will calm me down. I turned on the television and turned up the volume. I did not want to hear the footsteps and the tapping. Part of me wanted to leave the house, to never return. The other half, thinking whatever was creating the noise was not causing me any harm, just freaking me out, I muttered. But not freaking my dogs out. I sat down in my chair, with the bat nearby, knowing the bat was useless against a ghost. But it was reassuring to have it near me. Anyway, the rest of the night, I sat in the chair watching the tube, then dozed off to wake up an hour later, wondering if the ghost was still around. There is no way I'm going in that kitchen. I eventually dozed off again, waking up off and on throughout the night. My day at work was miserable due to lack of sleep. I spent the entire time contemplating on what I should do. I could move out, but then I would end up losing much money and wind up in an apartment, which I do not want to do. I could go to a church and have a priest bless the house. I could have a psychic or ghost hunter come in, or just live with it and get over my fears. If harm did not come my way, then I should be okay. But what about my sanity? It could make it an interesting home life, I muttered. My life was dull overall, so the reason I read so much of the fantastical. Living this kind of life in my house might be interesting. Of course, part of me screaming I was insane to have such thoughts. It came to me living at the house, encountering footsteps once a month, and little odd things happening. At first, scared, but eventually I became numb. Soon, I was like my dogs, and just enjoyed the roof over my head, no matter how bizarre it was to live under it. Gardenia. The family left Gardenia around 5 in the morning. They quietly packed their things and left, stopping only to clean the fridge, because they felt strongly that a dirty fridge would speak poorly of them and their abrupt departure. When they left, the fridge was clean, and there was still blood all over the walls. The blood did not belong to anyone in the family. It had started pouring down from the ceiling, and the family decided that was the final straw. It was one thing when specters appeared at the top of the stairs with 2 heads and horns. It was another when knives were flying across the kitchen, narrowly missing the head of the family's youngest, who was only 2. It was startling when the family dog suddenly grew to 5 times its size and ate the family's sedan. All of that was unfortunate. But the family had gotten Gardenia for a steal. They were apprised that it had a colorful past. They were a bit put off by it, but then they saw the guest bathrooms, and the very thought of having guests, let alone guest bathrooms, was simply too good to pass up. It took blood coming down the walls 3 weeks later for them to vacate. Once they were gone, the bloody devil manifested out of the television and made itself a sandwich. It was proud of the family. When they had first moved in, it hadn't expected them to last more than a few days. It figured the first time the lights flickered and the cicadas swarmed the toilet, they'd be out the door. That was the thing about some families. You never quite knew how much they were willing to put up with for a house with a fireplace and good insulation. The bloody devil ran its clawed paw along the wall and licked up a smidge of blood. This batch was too spicy, it said to itself. I should have used less red pepper. That night, as the bloody devil was falling asleep in the guest bathroom tub, it heard a sound. When it opened its fifth eye, it saw what looked like a little girl standing in the doorway of the bathroom. For a second, the bloody devil thought the little girl was one of the daughters from the family that had fled that morning. But when it blinked, the girl was gone. Just to be safe, the bloody devil turned off all the lights in the house so it could scan the darkness for any signs of living energy. When nothing turned up, it chalked the whole experience up to a bad dream. It returned to its bath, but when it did, it found that the shower had been turned on and steam had filled the room. There, on the mirror, was a message written in what appeared to be a human hand. We're back. From that day forward, the bloody devil, who had haunted Gardenia since the day it was built on top of a collapsed pagan temple, never knew a moment's peace. Children's toys would materialize in the living room. Toys with sharp edges and wheels that the bloody devil would step on, yowling as it fell backwards into the fireplace. Dirty dishes were somehow always in the sink, despite the bloody devil only eating off Ouija boards. At night, as it tried to sleep, it could hear the sound of a man and a woman in the next room. I'm telling you, we don't have the money to stay an extra night. We'd have the money if you took that job my father offered you. We've been over this, Natalie. I am not taking a handout from your father, so I guess you have to tell the kids why we're leaving Orlando early then. The conversation didn't scare the bloody devil as much as it made it very, very anxious. Were Natalie and the man going to stay together? They sounded so unhappy. Were they going to break up? Why was he hearing this when they weren't even here? That wasn't the only time it heard voices. You are not going out dressed like that, young lady. Jesse's mother lets her go out like this. That's why Jesse's going to end up in a documentary someday. What does that even mean? The bloody devil would hide behind the couch whenever these arguments were going on. It couldn't locate the source of the voices, no matter how hard it tried. But it also couldn't bear to just sit on his throne, made of vole skulls, and pretend it didn't hear the conflicts. They were always so domestic. It preferred higher stakes, life and death, passion and terror. Hearing a mother and daughter go at it because the daughter put on too much eyeliner made the bloody devil want to rip off one of its two heads, the one with the ears. After a century of living in and haunting Gardenia, it was the taco night that made the bloody devil abandon the house. It wasn't expecting any trouble, what with it being a Tuesday, and what with taco night always being something the family seemed to look forward to, based on what the bloody devil could surmise going off only voices and the satisfied sounds of chewing, while a mysterious odor of sour cream and pico filled the air. It made the bloody devil hungry, but it couldn't eat anything because there didn't appear to be any food there. It was torturous being exposed to such lovely aromas without being able to feast. It tried to placate itself by gnawing on the leg bone of a unicorn, but it just wasn't the same. The taco night started out fine, as best the bloody devil could tell. Plates were laid out, soft shells were placed next to hard shells, and the dad made a corny joke about tortillas, as he always did. Groans followed. Then some clanking of silverware and the sound of mastication. The bloody devil bit down on what little bit of meat was left on its unicorn leg, but it fantasized about what the ground beef must taste like when covered with shredded cheese and lettuce. That was when one of the daughters announced that she wouldn't be attending her own high school graduation. The bloody devil had no idea why the teenager chose this instance to make such an announcement, when everybody seemed to be having such a nice time. But as far as the bloody devil could tell, this was just something teenagers did. They found themselves in a pleasant moment and felt a compelling urge to ruin it. Right away, there was a fracas. The mother informed her daughter that she absolutely would be going to graduation because she and her husband did not work and save to send their daughter to a fancy private school, only so that she could skip the grand finale. The daughter then pointed out that the mother doesn't work, so really, it's just the father who should decide if the daughter has to go to graduation. There was a pause. While the bloody devil imagined, the mother waited on the father to back her up. But then the father just said, "I didn't go to my graduation either." And then the mother exploded on the father, which led to the teenage daughter shouting in defense of her father, while the youngest child cried, and one or two middle children began to loudly sing some song about gravy and a turkey's neck for no discernible reason, other than maybe trying to diffuse the tension or quell their own anxiety. At one point, it sounded as though someone, probably the mother, went around picking up the various plates full of soft shells and hard shells and pico, and began smashing them on the floor. This led to more noise, and somebody ran out the front door, slamming it behind them. The sound of the door slamming was like a shot going off inside the bloody devil. It had to leave. It had no choice. It couldn't live like this. Maybe it should have stuck around for the children. After all, the bloody devil might have been made from the nightmares of demons and the spirit of Lucifer. But it was at least civilized enough to know that children need a stabilizing force in their lives. And maybe the bloody devil could provide them for them. But how? No, it was no use. Sticking around wasn't a good idea for anyone. The bloody devil left Gardenia around 5 in the morning the very next day. Shortly after it departed, the family returned back to the home. They had taken a Ouija board from the fridge before they left. The bloody devil was always leaving its dirty Ouija boards in the fridge. They soon discovered that the board was a kind of portal into the house, and when they saw the bloody devil growing comfortable in their home, it made them angry. Not angry enough to do anything about it, of course. A bloody devil was still a bloody devil. They had no intention of going back. But soon, living in the rental home they occupied after leaving Gardenia started to feel suffocating. They began to argue. The eldest daughter began to act out. The middle children took to writing scary messages in steam in the small bathroom they all shared just to scare their youngest sibling. Toys were left everywhere. It all built up to a taco night that was, without question, one of the worst nights in the family's history. It wasn't until the next morning when one of the middle children brought the Ouija board to her mother as she was tossing another dirty dish in the sink. She pointed out that the bloody devil appeared to have left Gardenia. Natalie, the mother, moved the board all around so she could see each part of the house, and sure enough, there was no sign of the bloody devil anymore. "Well," she said, "I suppose that means we can go back." As for the bloody devil, he never went back to Gardenia, but that's probably for the best. It doesn't mean he loves the family any less, but that's mostly because he never loved them in the first place.